Pinocchio. Chapter 1. A Piece of Wood. Once upon a time, there was a piece of wood. Lying in a corner of the carpenter's workshop, it looked just like any other piece of wood. The carpenter's name was Mr. Cherry, and he needed a table leg. "Perfect," he said, catching sight of the wood. He rested against his worktop and picked up a chisel. "I'll just chip off a bark." As the chisel touched the wood, a voice cried out, "Don't hurt me!" Mr. Cherry looked up in surprise. He was alone in the room. "I must be imagining things," he thought. But when he tried again, tapping the chisel against the wood, someone screamed. "Who's there?" shouted Mr. Cherry. There was no answer. Wood can't talk, can it? He shook the wood and listened carefully. Nothing. Just then, his friend Geppetto knocked at the door. "I want to make a puppet," announced Geppetto. "Good for you, macaroni hair," called a voice. Geppetto went red in the face and glared at Mr. Cherry. "What did you say?" he shouted. "I didn't say a word." "It must have been you," said Geppetto. "There's no one else here. But give me some wood and I might forgive you." Mr. Cherry was happy to get rid of the strange piece of wood. The wood had other ideas and jabbed Geppetto in the tummy. "How dare you!" Geppetto shouted, almost losing his wig. He grabbed at Mr. Cherry's arm, and Mr. Cherry pushed him away. Biff went Geppetto, knocking off Mr. Cherry's wig. Boff went Mr. Cherry, and Geppetto's wig fell to the floor. After that, the two men looked so silly. They burst out laughing. And then they weren't cross anymore. "Goodbye, my friend," said Geppetto, taking the piece of wood. "Goodbye, Geppetto," replied Mr. Cherry. He closed the door and breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 2. Puppet Trouble. Geppetto strolled home, clutching his piece of wood. "I'll make the best puppet in the world," he thought, and call him Pinocchio. First, he chipped at the wood to make a head with hair. Then he gave the puppet 2 eyes. No sooner were they finished than one of them winked. Geppetto didn't notice. He had moved on to the puppet's nose. As he smoothed it down, the nose began to grow. Every time he chopped it off, it grew again, longer and longer. Geppetto gave up on the ridiculous nose and carved out a mouth. Before he'd even finished, the mouth laughed. "What's so funny?" asked Geppetto. Instead of replying, the puppet stuck out his tongue. "Behave," said Geppetto, shaping the puppet's body. "Remember, you're only a piece of wood." But when the legs and arms were finished, a hand reached out and snatched Geppetto's wig. Before he could say, "Stop, Pinocchio," the puppet jumped up and ran out of the house. "Wait!" Slap bang into a policeman. "What's going on here?" asked the policeman. Then he saw Geppetto waving his chisel and decided he looked dangerous. "You're under arrest for threatening a puppet," the policeman said, leading Geppetto away.